In the beginning of the drama, we are shown the female lead, Jin Ha-gyung. She is in a mall and calling her fiancé Ki-jun, but he does not attend her call. He tells her in a message, "My health is not okay, so I will not come." Then we see that Jin-ha's mom and sister are also in the mall. Jin-ha's sister speaks ill of Ki-jun to her mom, so she says, "It is not easy to find a good person in this century, that's why we should behave well with him." Actually, Jin-ha's sister is divorced, that's why their mom remains very worried for both of them. Then, while going home, Jin-ha's mom takes her to a fortune teller where she asks about Jin-ha and Ki-jun's wedding. So the fortune teller says, there are a lot of problems in their marriage. Even if the marriage happens, it will not be successful. Jin-ha gets angry at her mom after hearing all this, saying, "How can you believe their words?" and then starts to leave in anger. So the fortune teller tells her, "Take an umbrella and go." Jin-ha asks her the reason, so she tells her, "Because it is going to rain." Jin-ha comes outside and looking at the sun says, "Rain? I don't think it will happen." That's why she throws the umbrella right there. In the next scene, the male lead Lee Si-yu is shown, whose father tells him, "The meaning of your name is the coming of rain." He tells him, "My grandfather used to say the most precious thing in the world is for rain to come on its time." At that, Ki-jun smiles at their talk. There we see Jin-ha running outside Ki-jun's apartment. She enters the door password. It does not work. Just then Ki-jun comes out, who is shocked to see her. Then she gives him food, saying, "I have made porridge for you," after which she leaves, saying she is getting late for her job. Then an office employee tells her on a call, "There is a 5% chance of hail today, so an alert has to be announced." Jin-ha says, "You look exactly and tell me what the chances are of hail." So he says, around 4.8 to 4.9%. She says, "An announcement cannot be made on such a low percentage." In the next scene, we see Lee Si-yu, who comes to pick up his girlfriend, Yu-jin, who is surprised to see him at the stop. Then he tells her, "I have bought this car, so I have come to take you to lunch." Then Yu-jin, after getting in the car and checking, says, "This does not look new." So he says, "Yes, this is secondhand." Hearing this, Yu-jin's mood gets spoiled. Then both come to a restaurant for lunch, and the waiter there, upon seeing Yu-jin, says, "You are here again." So Lee Si-yu asks, "You have come before too?" So she says, "Yes, I came with a friend." Then Lee Si-yu tells her, "The summer season is coming. Why don't we go on an outing? We will do camping together." But we see Yu-jin is not happy with his planning. Then Yu-jin sees it is hailing outside and says, "But its alert was not announced." Lee Si-yu says, "They ignored my words. That's why." Then Yu-jin starts to leave from there. We see that due to that hail, there is a lot of damage in the city. That's why Jin-ha, who works in a forecasting company, the boss is scolding everyone for not announcing the alert. In the meeting room, everyone is analyzing. The boss tells Director Choi, "Explain." So he says, "Sir, this is my mistake." So the boss tells him, "Give a statement to the reporters because they all were angry for not announcing the rain alert." Just then, Director Choi suddenly falls down and faints due to heart pain, so he is shifted to the hospital. Then Jin-ha sees Ki-jun talking to some girl in the office. She asks him about that girl, so he tells her, "She is a reporter who was asking me about the forecast." Then Jin-ha goes and gives the statement to the media herself and tells the facts. In the office, the boss tells everyone about Director Choi's heart attack and tells Jin-ha, "Until Director Choi gets well, you will have to work in his place." She says, "But my wedding is after 2 weeks." But the boss leaves from there without listening to her. In the next scene, Jin-ha is in a meeting, and her sister asks her on a call about booking the wedding hall. But upon the boss's arrival, Jin-ha ends the call. There, Lee Si-yu is also telling his senior about the weather, whom Jin-ha's boss sees on a video call. He tells Lee Si-yu, "Say your piece." So Lee Si-yu says, "The arrival of clouds in the Gangwon city area is unusual." Jin-ha's colleague says, "The prediction for the day it hailed was made by this boy." Then Lee Si-yu tells the boss, "There is a chance of rain today as well." Jin-ha is surprised because the sky is clear. Then the boss tells Jin-ha, "Decide about announcing the alert." She totally ignores Lee Si-yu's words, at which Lee Si-yu gets angry at her. That's why he calls Jin-ha's colleague Seok and tells him, "Talk to Jin-ha." So Seok goes and tells Jin-ha, "Announce the rain alert now," and tells the boss, "I told them about the possibilities of rain yesterday too, but they ignored my words." The boss, scolding Seok, says, "Still, you should not have announced the alert without the director's permission." Then the boss calls Jin-ha to his room to talk, after which Jin-ha goes to Lee Si-yu's office to talk to him, where they have a lot of arguments. Lee Si-yu says, "The public suffered a lot of loss last time due to not announcing the alert. That's why I had the alert announced this time by telling Seok." Where Jin-ha's point was, "How could I issue an alert when there was just a small chance of rain, in case it was a false alarm?" That's why she did this. Just then it starts to rain, which Jin-ha feels by touching it. Then to go back, Jin-ha is standing outside when Lee Si-yu brings an umbrella for her, but seeing him, she leaves from there in her car. She looks at her phone and sees that many of her wedding orders have been cancelled, which Ki-jun had done. That's why she is shocked and calls him, but his number is off. Then she comes to Ki-jun's apartment, and outside the room, she sees Lady's sandals lying there, which belonged to that reporter she had seen with Ki-jun in the office. Then she opens the room door and sees Ki-jun romancing with that reporter, and Jin-ha gets hurt and starts to leave from there. On the other side, Lee Si-yu is packing a lot of things. When Yoo-jin comes home, he tells her, "I have made a plan to go on a trip," but Yoo-jin tells him, "Let's break up." Hearing this, Lee Si-yu is shocked. Then we are shown a scene from 2 months later. Director Choi tells Jin-ha, "I have decided to resign from the office. That's why now you will have to see the work as a director." The next day in the office, the boss tells Jin-ha about a job in Geneva. "If you want, I can get you transferred there." Then when Jin-ha comes to her apartment, many things are missing from the house, at which she gets worried. Then she calls Ki-jun and asks about it, so he says, "We bought all that together. That's why I took it." So she says, "How can you decide this alone?" Then they have an argument. Ki-jun says, "We will have to split all the things and the apartment in half too." So Jin-ha thinks, so just the breakup was not enough. Then we are shown a flashback scene. When Jin-ha leaves Ki-jun's apartment, Ki-jun sees her going. He comes after her and says sorry to her and says, "We should cancel the wedding." Jin-ha starts hitting him with her bag while crying. It is raining outside. Both get wet in the rain. In the present, Ki-jun tells her, "Split everything in half," and after telling her, "Think about giving me the money for the apartment," he leaves from there. In the next scene, we see Jin-ha having breakfast with her mom and sister. Her mom is very disappointed because of her breakup, but Jin-ha pretends in front of them that this breakup does not make any difference to her. Jin-ha had also bought the apartment in both their names. That's why her mom is very angry at her, saying, "What girl does this before marriage?" Jin-ha gets irritated and says, "I will handle it," and leaves from there. The next day, Jin-ha sees Lee Si-yu outside the office, whom the watchman does not let inside. He tells the watchman, "I work here," but he says, "You cannot go inside without showing your work badge." So Jin-ha comes and tells the watchman, "Let him go inside." Then while going inside, Lee Si-yu thanks her. Then he tells Jin-ha, "I have been transferred here. I will work here for the next 2 weeks." Hearing this, Jin-ha is shocked. Then she goes to the boss and talks about sending Lee Si-yu back to his place. But the boss tells her, "He is an intelligent boy. We will benefit from him." Then when she comes downstairs, Yoo-jin is telling the girls, "My husband, that is Ki-jun, cares for me a lot. I am very lucky that I got a husband like him." Hearing all this, Jin-ha gets jealous and leaves from there. Then we see Jin-ha in a press conference which Ki-jun is conducting. After the conference, when Jin-ha is about to leave, Ki-jun congratulates her on becoming the director and asks, "So what have you decided? If we divide the money, you will not be at a loss." She says, "Oh, so you like to share. I did not want to say this, but if this is what's fair, then why did you take the TV and other things from the apartment?" So he says, "I thought I could take anything from there. And besides, I was the one who bought that TV." She says, "We used to use the same card, which was a joint card, in which I made the deposits. You bought that TV with that, that's why I returned the TV and other things." Ki-jun starts arguing with her, so Jin-ha says, "This is a workplace, so talk to me with respect." Just then, Lee Si-yu comes over to give her a message from the boss, and she leaves with him. Outside, Yoo-jin is shocked to see Lee Si-yu there. When Jin-ha is going towards the boss's room, Lee Si-yu comes behind her and says, "The boss did not call you. I made this excuse after seeing you two arguing." So Jin-ha smiles, after which when Lee Si-yu goes into the office, he sees Yoo-jin. She asks him, "Can we go downstairs and talk?" Lee Si-yu goes after her. So Yoo-jin asks him, "What are you doing here?" So he says, "I have been transferred here." So she says, "Why have you come to follow me here?" Lee Si-yu says, "I am not following you. I have been transferred here for 2 weeks." Yoo-jin says, "This is unbelievable." Then she says, "Ki-jun does not know about your and my relationship, and I don't want him to find out about you either." Lee Si-yu leaves from there without saying anything. Jin-ha is watching all this from the office window. Lee Si-yu notices her, so she leaves from there. When Jin-ha comes to the apartment from the office, Ki-jun sends all her belongings that he had taken from there, after which Jin-ha takes pictures of all those things and posts them for sale. The next day, Jin-ha is doing overtime work in the office when Lee Si-yu starts to help her. He tells her, "The girl Ki-jun married is my girlfriend." So Jin-ha says, "Then something quite bad happened." But Lee Si-yu says, "Not with me, something bad happened with Ki-jun. The pain I was going through after the breakup has ended today because I have realized that Ki-jun's decision to leave you and marry Yoo-jin is a wrong decision." But Jin-ha says, "It's not like that. I don't think anyone is perfect in this world. Lee Si-yu asks, have you decided to transfer to Geneva? Jin-ha asks, how do you know about this? So he says, everyone knows you're leaving from here. If you are going to avoid Ki-jun, then you should not go. Deceit is not visible, but it definitely leaves its marks. In the next scene, Jin-ha, in front of everyone in the office, angrily calls Ki-jun outside and then slaps him hard. He asks, what have I done? So Jin-ha says, our marriage registration was even done and you broke up with me. How shameless is that? You did not even apologize to me. He says, I did apologize. Jin-ha says, we spent 10 years together. In such a long time, even if someone doesn't love someone, it is appropriate to be sincerely sorry while breaking up. But you said our apartment was just a boarding house. I thought I was also a little at fault behind our breakup. I used to behave coldly with you due to being busy, but I was a fool who could not see how lonely you were. Ki-jun says, we spent 10 years together and that whole time was very difficult for me. You treated me as an employee. Jin-ha tells him, you should have talked to me about my bad behavior. Ki-jun says, when you were in a bad mood, I would think, to what extent can I go to make you happy? Jin-ha asks, crying, in all these years, was I nothing to you? Then she tells him, I have sold the apartment. He asks, what will I get? So Jin-ha says, I will transfer to you as much as you deposited. Ki-jun leaves from there in anger. After this, Jin-ha goes to the boss and says, I am refusing the offer to go to Geneva. I want to work right here. In the next scene, when Jin-ha is going home, Lee Si-yu comes in his car and asks her to go for a drink, after which we see both of them in a bar. While talking, both drink a lot. Lee Si-yu tells her, I created a scene at Yoo-jin's wedding by catching her flower bouquet. Hearing this, Jin-ha starts to smile and says, you are very brave. Then both tell each other stories about their ex-boy and girlfriends. Then we see the scene of the next day. Jin-ha's eyes open, and she is shocked to see herself in a hotel room with Lee Si-yu on one bed and starts to get up. Just then, Lee Si-yu asks her, you are awake? So Jin-ha falls on the bed again. Then after a while, she says, sorry to Lee Si-yu. Whatever happened between us while drunk, I am sorry for that. Then we see a flashback scene where, coming out of the bar, Lee Si-yu kisses Jin-ha. So Jin-ha also starts kissing him, after which both are shown romancing in the hotel room. In the present, remembering everything, both get embarrassed. Jin-ha says, because we are both adults, whatever was between us was an accident, so let's forget this and move on. Lee Si-yu also agrees to her point. Then he tells her, I have been permanently transferred here now. Hearing this, Jin-ha is shocked. Then when Jin-ha comes home, her mom is worried for her because she did not come home at night, but she goes to her room without talking to anyone. So her mom says to her sister, she remains sad because of her wedding not happening. Then her sister opens Jin-ha's door and sees that she is happy about spending the night with Lee Si-yu. But her sister thinks she is crying because of Ki-jun, so she goes and tells her mom. When her mom is about to go see her, Jin-ha's sister stops them, saying, leave her alone, she will come out of this phase by herself. On the other side, Jin-ha notices that a button on her shirt is broken, so she remembers the night scene, that while romancing with Lee Si-yu, her shirt button broke and fell. In the present, she gets embarrassed. Then Jin-ha gets ready and is about to go to the office, and while taking out the car keys, she remembers that they were left in the hotel, so she starts going to the office by public bus. There, in the office, it was time for the meeting, but due to Jin-ha's absence, everyone is waiting for her. Just then, we see Jin-ha coming to the office running. Seeing everyone waiting, she gets nervous. So while sitting on the seat, all her things fall down from her hand, so Lee Si-yu picks up the things and gives them to her. Then after the meeting, Lee Si-yu asks Jin-ha, are you okay? So she says, yes, I am fine, and then leaves from there. Then when she comes to her desk, she finds the car keys lying there. She thinks, Lee Si-yu must have put the keys there, so she starts to smile. Then later, Lee Si-yu sees Jin-ha sneezing, so he brings medicine for her. When she is making coffee, he gives it to her. She says, I am fine. But Lee Si-yu touches her forehead and says, you have a fever too, take this medicine. Jin-ha asks, why are you doing all this? So he says, it is included in my duty to keep my director happy. Don't you worry, I will not put any kind of pressure on you. In the next scene, Jin-ha's mom meets her friend in the market who talks to her about Jin-ha's wedding. She had gone out of the city, so she did not know about Jin-ha's wedding being cancelled. She says sorry to Jin-ha's mom. I could not come to your daughter's wedding, but I want to give her a gift. Jin-ha's mom, stopping her, tells her that her wedding has been cancelled. She says, one of your daughters got divorced and the other's wedding got cancelled. What a sad thing. It seems your daughters are very unlucky. Hearing such things, Jin-ha's mom gets angry at her, so she starts to fight with her. That's why Jin-ha's sister takes them home. On the other side, when Ki-jun comes back home seeing the house dirty, he gets very angry at Yoo-jin. That's why when Yoo-jin comes home, they both have a fight. Yoo-jin asks him, you didn't tell me that Jin-ha slapped you in front of everyone in the office, and what is the issue with the apartment? So Ki-jun tells her, I will resolve this issue myself, you don't need to take tension. Then, when Yoo-jin goes to put out the garbage, she remembers that Lee Si-yoo, her ex-boyfriend, used to say, I will do this work myself. I don't want your clothes or hands to get dirty. Remembering this, she gets a little sad. In the next scene, Jin-ha has come to her apartment. Just then, on the doorbell ringing, she goes to check, and Lee Si-yoo has come. She asks him, what are you doing here? So he is shocked to see her because he had come to buy it after seeing the online apartment ad. Then, when Lee Si-yoo comes inside and is looking at the apartment, Jin-ha says, don't look like that. I will not sell the apartment to you. Just then, Lee Si-yoo's eyes fall on the things kept in cartons. He asks, are you going to throw this outside? She says, no, I am selling all this. So Lee Si-yoo, looking at all the things, says, this is just like new. That's why if you sell it online, you will get a good price. Then he guides her. Then, because of his help, Jin-ha makes a lot of profit. So she says thanks to Lee Si-yoo. So he says, if you are thankful, then get me dinner because I am hungry. Jin-ha asks, what do you want to eat? So he says, anything. After which Jin-ha tells him, come. Then both come to a restaurant. Lee Si-yoo asks her, why are you selling the apartment? So she says, I want to forget Ki-jun. We have a lot of memories in that apartment. So Lee Si-yoo says, what has passed was our past. We cannot change it. But you will suffer a loss from the decision to sell the apartment. Jin-ha asks, are you worried about me? So he says, no, I am advising you from my life experience. Then he asks her, did you take the medicine? So Jin-ha says, eat your food. Lee Si-yoo touches her forehead, so Jin-ha starts looking at him shockingly. Lee Si-yoo says, now you don't have a fever. Just then, Jin-ha sees that some office workers are also coming there, so she hides under the table. Lee Si-yoo asks her, why are you doing this? So she says, I don't want them to misunderstand something by seeing us together. Then Lee Si-yoo, smiling, goes to those workers and starts talking and signals to Jin-ha that she should leave from there. Then after she leaves, he also says goodbye to them and goes after her. Jin-ha asks, they didn't see me, did they? Seeing her worried, Lee Si-yoo get confused. He starts to get close to her. In the next scene, we see Lee Si-yoo, who was climbing a tower and analyzing the weather. Suddenly, fog appears there. He sees a girl wearing red sandals on the tower. Just then, his dream breaks. He looks outside from the window and there is fog outside. Then, on his phone, he sees Jin-ha's message. Did you reach home safely? There, Jin-ha is jogging. Then she gets Lee Si-yoo's message. Did you sleep well at night? So Jin-ha remembers the night's scene. Lee Si-yoo had asked her, do you like me? She says, yes, but I can't date you. Sorry. But Lee Si-yoo says, it's okay. The next day in the office, an employee asks Lee Si-yoo, I saw you there with some girl whom you went to drop off by the back way. Who was she? So Lee Si-yoo starts looking towards Jin-ha. She is also looking at them. What are they talking about? That employee tells Lee Si-yoo, are you dating someone? Lee Si-yoo says, no, I met someone for some work. At that, Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yoo to submit an article, by which those employees tell Lee Si-yoo to do his work and leave from there. In the next scene, they all are in a meeting on the fog issue, so Lee Si-yoo comes and stands close to Jin-ha. Jin-ha tells him to stand far away, so he asks, why, are you getting uncomfortable? Jin-ha then gets angry at him and tells him to tell the weather details. In the next scene, Ki-jun has to make a weather report, for which he takes out some books for reference, and in them, he finds Yoo-jin's picture with Lee Si-yoo. He remembers that Yoo-jin was saying about Lee Si-yoo that she doesn't know him, so he starts to suspect Yoo-jin. On the other side, Jin-ha is watching a video on her phone when by mistake a video call goes to Lee Si-yoo. So she, making an excuse to him, says, what is to be said about the fog and weather of other countries and what equipment are they using? I need a report on this. So Lee Si-yoo spends the whole night extracting data, but the next morning Jin-ha does not give much remarks on that article, so he gets sad. In the next scene, a senior officer shows Ki-jun the newspaper and gets angry because Yoo-jin had published an article in which it was written about weather forecasting. Actually, a day before, she had interviewed Jin-ha on this matter, so all that was also written in the article. Ki-jun says sorry to the senior officer and then angrily starts to go towards Yoo-jin. He sees that Jin-ha is also going in the same direction. Jin-ha goes to Yoo-jin and says, how can you put the blame of being incompetent on our company? Yoo-jin says, because I feel you people don't even have the equipment with which the weather can be found out, because you don't get funds from the government. So Jin-ha says, our annual budget is more than 400 billion won. Do you think we have a shortage of equipment? Just then, Ki-jun comes there. So Jin-ha, telling Yoo-jin to do her work properly, starts to leave from there. So Ki-jun apologizes on behalf of Yoo-jin to Jin-ha. Then, after she leaves, Ki-jun tells Yoo-jin, "How can you write like this against the director? She is competent. That's why she is in this post. Why did you lie about her?" She says, "I did not lie about anything." Ki-jun then shows her Lee Si-yu's picture and asks, "Tell me about this." Seeing this, she is shocked. In the next scene, Jin-ha is having dinner with her family, so her mom insists her to date someone else or go on a blind date, at which Jin-ha angrily leaves the house and goes to her apartment. Then at night while working, she calls Lee Si-yu and asks, "I have to ask you something about a file." He starts to tell her. Then while working, Lee Si-yu falls asleep, so Jin-ha then calls him and starts asking about the next page. Then after a while, Jin-ha hears the doorbell. She checks, and Lee Si-yu has come. He tells her, "I thought I am getting hungry while working, so you must be feeling hungry too. That's why I brought pizza for you and for myself." Jin-ha tells him to come inside, then both enjoy pizza together. Jin-ha smiles, seeing him eat 2 slices of pizza together. Then after some time, while working, Jin-ha notices that Lee Si-yu is sleeping. So, looking at him, she remembers when she was leaving after refusing Lee Si-yu for a date. Upon Lee Si-yu saying something, she had gone back and kissed him. On the other side, Yoo-jin goes to the bathroom and tears Lee Si-yu's picture and throws it away. Just then, an employee tells her, "I have heard that Lee Si-yu is dating someone." So, she gets sad. The next day, Jin-ha and Lee Si-yu watch the sunrise together. Jin-ha agrees to date him but tells him, "Keep it a secret." Then Lee Si-yu gets happy and kisses her. Then in the office, both smile looking at each other. In the meeting too, Lee Si-yu, while telling weather facts to Jin-ha, holds her hand. So Jin-ha smiles. In the next scene, we see Yoo-jin calling Lee Si-yu while crying. But Lee Si-yu is sleeping with Jin-ha in her apartment, so he does not answer her call. The next morning, Jin-ha wakes up and, seeing the time, quickly starts to leave for the office because she was late for the office. Then in the lift, she remembers that she forgot the pen drive in the apartment, so she goes back. On the other side, Lee Si-yu, seeing Yoo-jin's calls on his mobile, calls her and asks, "Why were you calling me?" Then he tells her, "I will not do anything for you anymore, so don't call me again." When Jin-ha comes into the apartment, Lee Si-yu is talking to Yoo-jin, so Jin-ha asks, "Who were you talking to?" Lee Si-yu, changing the subject, while giving her the pen drive, says, "You are getting late for work, so I will also come with you." Then both are going to the office together. Yoo-jin is repeatedly calling Lee Si-yu, but he doesn't pick up, but Jin-ha feels strange. Then she says, "You drop me right here. Everyone will gossip if we go together." But just then, Jin-ha sees that in the car next to them is the employee Shin Seok. Lee Si-yu says hi to him with a hand gesture. Then in the lift, Lee Si-yu tells Shin Seok, "I gave Jin-ha a lift on the way, that's why we came together." Then in the office, Lee Si-yu gets a call, so he gets up and leaves from there. Jin-ha notices him leaving. Ki-jun comes out for some work and sees Yoo-jin going somewhere, so he goes after her. Outside, Yoo-jin is with Lee Si-yu. She tells him that Ki-jun has found out about our past relationship. So Lee Si-yu asks, "Is he bothering you?" So Yoo-jin says, "He is not like you. He cares a lot for me." Lee Si-yu says, "You should still be careful." Then Yoo-jin starts to leave from there when she sees Ki-jun standing in front of her. He tells Lee Si-yu to stay away from Yoo-jin now. Then going inside, Ki-jun tells Jin-ha, "You knew that Yoo-jin is Lee Si-yu's ex-girlfriend. Still, you kept Lee Si-yu on the job here. You want to take revenge on me." Jin-ha says, "You are not that important to me that I would make such plans." Then she kicks his leg and goes inside. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu, seeing Jin-ha coming into the office, comes to her and gives her a report, so she tells him to analyze the data. Then when she comes to the office kitchen, Lee Si-yu comes and hugs her. Jin-ha tells him, "I told you to keep a distance in the office." So Lee Si-yu says, "Trust me, we will not get caught." Then he tells her that Ki-jun has found out that I was Yoo-jin's ex-boyfriend. That's why Yoo-jin told me to be careful. So Jin-ha says, Ki-jun takes things to heart very quickly. Then Jin-ha says, "By the way, I am also crazy, who first dated my colleague who cheated on me. Now I am dating a colleague again." Lee Si-yu asks, "Are you angry with me?" So she says, "No, I am not angry with you. I am angry with myself for spending so much time with such a person." Then she starts to leave, so Lee Si-yu back hugs her. In the next scene, Jin-ha is standing by the window and sees rain outside. Just then, Seok-shin tells her that a flood could come due to the rain. "We did not announce any alert. That's why a lot of damage has happened." Then the boss calls Jin-ha, after which, in the meeting room, everyone gets scolded by the boss, because of which Jin-ha is under a lot of stress. That's why, while taking out a file, she drops all the files from the cupboard, so an employee comes and helps her and tells her, "Don't get too worried. The responsibility for this incident is on all of us, so trust us. We are trying to fix it." Then, Everyone is engaged in searching for the people who were missing at the construction site. Then those two are rescued, so Jin-ha and her team become happy. In the next scene, Jin-ha had sent Lee Si-yu to get a drink, but being confused about the flavor, he calls her. Just then he gets a call, so he leaves from there. In the next scene, we see Lee Si-yu in a hotel. On the other side, Jin-ha also comes to drop an employee at the same hotel. There, Lee Si-yu knocks on a door in the hotel. So a girl opens the door and, smiling at him, says, "Oh, you've come." Jin-ha comes into the hotel with the employee and sees Lee Si-yu coming out from there. Both are shocked to see each other. Then Lee Si-yu takes that employee to the hotel room, after which Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yu, "We were at the workstation where, after work, he drank too much during dinner. I didn't know his address either. That's why I brought him here. What are you doing here?" Lee Si-yu does not tell her anything, so Jin-ha says, "You don't want to tell me, or is it something else?" So Lee Si-yu says, "And why did you bring this employee yourself instead of sending him in a taxi in a drunken state?" Just then, the girl who Lee Si-yu met in the hotel comes in front of her and says, "You are still here? I thought you must have left." Then she tells him to go home safely and leaves. Jin-ha is in shock seeing all this. In the next scene, there is a doorbell outside Lee Si-yu's house. He checks, and it is his landlord who tells him to vacate the apartment as soon as possible, after which we see him in a cafe with Jin-ha. Jin-ha tells him, "I think we should reconsider our relationship." Hearing her words, Lee Si-yu gets a little sad because he wanted to make the relationship with her even stronger. Then Lee Si-yu tells her, "The woman you saw yesterday has no connection with me." Jin-ha says, "I want to believe your words, but I am in doubt because of my past experience." Then Lee Si-yu tells her, "My dad was in that hotel." Then we see a flashback when Lee Si-yu comes outside that lady's room and says, "I have to meet my dad." So she tells him to come inside, where Lee Si-yu's dad is gambling. Lee Si-yu, seeing him like this, starts to leave from there, so he comes after him. Actually, Lee Si-yu's dad used to trouble Lee Si-yu a lot because of gambling. He always had to help him. Lee Si-yu's dad is still telling him to give money, but Lee Si-yu says, "I don't have money." So he tells him to take a loan. So Lee Si-yu tells him not to call him again and starts to leave from there. Then we see when Lee Si-yu is standing with Jin-ha outside that hotel, his dad sees him. After which, in the present, we see Lee Si-yu's dad outside his office building. There, Jin-ha is in the meeting room and she gets a message from her sister that her mom is sick. "So you come home quickly," but she ignores it. Then the watchman calls Jin-ha and tells her that you have a guest outside. So Jin-ha goes outside and he tells her, "I am Lee Si-yu's father. I know you two are very close." He says this very loudly, so Jin-ha tells him to speak softly because office employees are also there. So Lee Si-yu's father says, "Haven't you openly told about your date?" So Jin-ha says, "You can assume so." So Lee Si-yu's father asks for money from Jin-ha to keep this matter a secret. On the other side, Jin-ha's sister calls the office and tells them that her mom is hospitalized. Hearing this, Lee Si-yu goes outside to find her, and he sees her in the office cafeteria. He tells her that your mom is hospitalized and tells her to go there, after which Jin-ha calls her sister, who, while crying, tells her to come to the hospital. Just then, her team tells her, "We will handle everything here. You can go." So Jin-ha agrees. Then upon her going to the hospital, her sister tells her that mom's health was bad. She fell in the bathroom and fainted. Due to the fall, she got an injury on her forehead, but she is still unconscious. Then Jin-ha starts to look at her mom. On the other side, Ki-jun had to submit an article due to which he is in the office, but he is not understanding anything, so he decides to take Jin-ha's help. He goes to her office and checks, but he does not see Jin-ha. He asks an employee about her, who tells him that Jin-ha has gone home due to some personal issues. Hearing this, he gets sad. Then that employee tells her colleagues in the lift that Ki-jun might need Jin-ha's help in the article. That's why he was asking. Previously too, Jin-ha used to help him. Jin-ha's heart is very soft for everyone. Lee Si-yu also hears all this standing in the lift. Then we see him in the hospital. The next day, the doctor tells Jin-ha not to give her mom stress and she needs rest. Then he gives medicine and discharges her. Lee Si-yu is also standing far away and smiles, seeing them all smiling. Then he goes to his dad and gives him money and says, "I'm giving this to you for the last time." So his father says, "By the way, your girlfriend has more power than you. She is older than you but is beautiful. Her salary must be higher too." Lee Si-yu is shocked and asks, "You met director Jin-ha?" Then we see a flashback where Lee Si-yu's father tells Jin-ha, "If you want to date Lee Si-yu, you will have to make a deal with me." In the present, hearing all this, Lee Si-yu gets very angry. So he starts to hit his dad and says, "How can you do this to me? I request you, let me live. Stop interfering in my life." On the other side, Jin-ha's mom takes her home. Then she gets a call from Ki-jun. He, apologizing to her, says, "You helped me with the article this time." In the next scene, when Jin-ha comes outside her apartment, Lee Si-yu is waiting for her there. He asks Jin-ha about her mom's health, so she says, she is better now. Then he apologizes to her. Forgive me for what my dad said to you. Then Jin-ha asks him, have we eaten? So he says, no. In the next scene, we see both of them in the apartment. Jin-ha places food in front of him and tells him, my mom cooked this herself. This is made in our house only once. So Lee Si-yu asks, why? So she tells him, this was my dad's favorite dish and yesterday was my dad's anniversary. Then we see a flashback in which when Jin-ha comes home, she sees her father hanging in his room because he had attempted suicide. In the present, she says, the state in which I saw my dad, I even forgot how to walk. Then Lee Si-yu, after tasting the dish, says, this is delicious. So Jin-ha smiles. Then she tells him, can you promise me something? Lee Si-yu asks, what? So she says, in our relationship, if you no longer love me, then break up after telling me. I will surely be hurt, but if you keep me in the dark, I will break. Neither become like my dad, nor deceive me like Ki-jun. Lee Si-yu, after thinking, promises her. So Jin-ha smiles. In the next scene, when Ki-jun shows the article to the boss likes it. So he praises Ki-jun, so he becomes happy. Then when he goes to his seat, he gets a message from Yoo-jin. So he goes to meet her in the cafe. She asks him, have you registered the marriage? But Yoo-jin says, no, I am thinking of reconsidering it. On the other side, Lee Si-yu tells Jin-ha, I want to live with you. Lee Si-yu asks, why do you want to live together? So she says, because this way, we get a chance to know about each other, which makes the relationship strong. But Lee Si-yu says, it's not like that. I was with Yoo-jin for so long, but still, she left me and married Ki-jun. On the other side, Ki-jun asks Yoo-jin the reason. So she says, I thought our life would be good after marriage with you, but the way you were caring and loving before marriage, you are not like that now. And living with you, I will have to suffer a lot because you still have to pay your apartment installments. To pay, which you and I will have to work very hard. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu comes to see an apartment somewhere, but due to its rent being very high, he comes out from there. He then calls Jin-ha, but she does not attend the call and then starts looking at her mobile to see if Lee Si-yu calls her again or not. But Lee Si-yu does not call her then. Then at night, Lee Si-yu sleeps in his car. Then in the morning, to take a bath, he uses the office bathroom and sees another office employee, Dong-han, there. After bathing, when Dong-han goes out, Lee Si-yu goes after him and finds out that Dong-han is staying in the night duty room. Lee Si-yu goes into that room and, seeing an empty bed, asks Dong-han, is this bed empty? Dong-han says, yes. So Lee Si-yu happily sits on that bed. Now I will also stay right here. In the next scene, Jin-ha in the office asks Lee Si-yu, why didn't you call again? So Lee Si-yu says, were you waiting for my call again? And starts to smile. So Jin-ha gets nervous and leaves from there. On the other side, Ki-jun discusses with a senior friend about Yoo-jin that she is confused about getting the marriage registered. So she advises him, maybe she has doubts about you. You assure her of your love, and she will be fine. Due to this, Ki-jun calls Yoo-jin and tells her, today, we will have lunch together. So Yoo-jin becomes happy. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu hears the boss talking to Dong-han. He tells them that due to doing overtime, I am staying in the night duty room. But the boss scolds him. Some people are complaining, why do you use that room? That's why you will have to find a place for yourself. In the next scene, Jin-ha has come to dinner with Lee Si-yu. She asks him, you refuse to live with me. What is the reason for this? So Lee Si-yu says, I don't want to take any risk with my relationship. That's why I will not live with you. In the next scene, Ki-jun prepares dinner for Yoo-jin. Then, while having dinner, he shows Yoo-jin the apartment documents. We have only a few installments left, after which this house will be ours. So Yoo-jin becomes happy. In the next scene, Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yu that after my father's death, my uncle kicked us out of the house because of which we had to spend the night on the footpath. Then my mom struggled a lot for us. In the next scene, office workers complain to Jin-ha that 2 people from your team live in the night duty room. You should talk to them. So Jin-ha asks Dong-han and Lee Si-yu the reason for staying in the office. So Dong-han says, I use that room on overtime days, but Lee Si-yu has only slept there yesterday. Before this, he was sleeping in the car. Lee Si-yu tells Dong-han not to tell all this, but Jin-ha had heard everything. So she says, you will have to leave the room because everyone else is complaining. Then, at night, Lee Si-yu and Dong-han pack their things and come to the car to sleep. Jin-ha notices them, so she brings them to her apartment. She gives them separate rooms and says, you both will have to pay me rent. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu had come to the market to get food for Dong-han. There, Shin-seok, an employee who lives in Jin-ha's building, is going out to put out the garbage, and he sees that Ki-jun is standing drunk outside Jin-ha's apartment. Jin-ha, seeing him like this, does not let him come inside. Dong-han asks, who is it? So Ki-jun, hearing a boy's voice, comes inside and sees Dong-han. Just then, Seok-shin also comes there. So Dong-han tells him, Jin-ha gave me a room on rent here. Just then, Lee Si-yu also arrives there with food. Seeing whom Ki-jun says, what is going on here? Just then, Jin-ha grabs Ki-jun by the tie and takes him out of the apartment and says, why are you creating drama in my house drunk at night? She is shouting. So Ki-jun says, why are you yelling at me? So Jin-ha says, you have come to my door drunk, so should I be happy? So Ki-jun says, I have come to apologize to you. On the other side, Lee Si-yu is waiting for her in Jin-ha's apartment with Seok and Dong-han. Seok says, we should go and check on Jin-ha. So Lee Si-yu goes to see Jin-ha. There, Jin-ha asks Ki-jun, what are you sorry for? So he says, for breaking up. When you must have seen that I cheated on you, you must have been very hurt. So Jin-ha says, no, this pain is not that big. Humiliation is a bigger thing than this. I have gone through that too. Ki-jun says, I am ashamed. All this happened because of me. Then Jin-ha, relaxing him, says, that was our past. So now we should move on. Ki-jun says, this is all Lee Si-yu's mistake. So Jin-ha says, the way he was cheated on is similar to my experience. So Ki-jun says, he and Yoo-jin used to live together, but Yoo-jin hid this fact from me. Ever since I found out about this, I can realize your pain. Yoo-jin should not have lied to me. So Jin-ha says, she did not lie to you. Rather, she did a good thing by not telling you. When you love someone, you accept both their good and bad qualities. Ki-jun falls on Jin-ha's shoulder, so she starts to push him away. Just then, Lee Si-yu comes and asks her for Ki-jun's address, after which he starts to take him to his house. On the other side, we see Yoo-jin, who is preparing food. Just then, she hears Lee Si-yu's voice on Ki-jun's phone. After this, we see her outside with Lee Si-yu. He takes Ki-jun out of the taxi and tells Yoo-jin to take him. Yoo-jin is in shock seeing Ki-jun drunk with Lee Si-yu. Then, Lee Si-yu hands Ki-jun to her and leaves from there. When Lee Si-yu comes back, he sees Jin-ha standing outside and comes to her. Jin-ha asks him, did you drop him at his house? So he says, yes. Then he asks Jin-ha, why do you still help Ki-jun in writing articles? So Jin-ha shockingly asks, how do you know? So he says, I heard in the office. Jin-ha says, from your asking, it seems like you want to fight with me, but I don't want that. Then she goes into her apartment. The next morning, Jin-ha gets ready nicely and comes out of her room. On the other side, Yoo-jin asks Ki-jun the next morning, what happened last night? Ki-jun asks, why? So she says, Lee Si-yu brought you home drunk. Were you with Lee Si-yu? Ki-jun ignores her words and starts to leave. So Yoo-jin says, we should talk now. Ki-jun says, I am getting late for work, so let's talk later. There, Jin-ha tells Dong-han and Lee Si-yu where which thing is kept, so that they can cook food for themselves. Then she tells them to come to work after having breakfast and leaves, after which Lee Si-yu makes breakfast for himself and Dong-han. On the other side, Jin-ha has an accident while going to the office, because of which she is late for the office. Jin-ha's car's insurance documents are with Ki-jun, so she tells him about the accident and tells him to send the documents, but Ki-jun quickly takes them and starts to go himself, whom Lee Si-yu also sees leaving. There in the office, the boss asks about Jin-ha. Just then, Dong-han tells the boss that Jin-ha had an accident while coming to the office, so she will come late. Lee Si-yu, hearing this, calls Jin-ha, but her number is not connecting. There, Ki-jun reaches Jin-ha and solves the issue, and then tells Jin-ha to come to the office with him because her car was taken by the insurance company for repair. Jin-ha, thanking him, says, I will go by taxi. But Ki-jun says, you don't get taxis here, so come with me. So Jin-ha, because of the office meeting, starts to go with him. Then when Jin-ha comes to the office with Ki-jun, Lee Si-yu sees her coming with Ki-jun from the window. Then as soon as Jin-ha comes inside, Lee Si-yu takes her to talk alone. Ki-jun finds them going together strange, so he starts to go after them. But just then he starts getting calls from Yoo-jin, but he ignores her. Now Jin-ha asks Lee Si-yu, what is it? So he says, I heard about your accident, are you okay? So she says, yes, it was a small accident. Then Lee Si-yu asks, did you call Ki-jun there? So Jin-ha says, yes, because I needed him for the car insurance. Lee Si-yu says, how many reasons do you have to talk to Ki-jun and see him? Sometimes an article, sometimes a reason to apologize, and now this car accident. Jin-ha gets very angry at him for doubting her. Lee Si-yu says, you have no idea how worried I was about you when I heard about your accident. You were not even attending my call. Jin-ha says, everything is fine, you don't need to worry. Then she says sorry to him and leaves from there. When Lee Si-yu is going to his office, he sees Yoo-jin on the way who asks him about the night. Were you with Ki-jun? At which Lee Si-yu tells her everything. Then we see in the conference room, Jin-ha and Ki-jun are giving a weather briefing to the media people. When Lee Si-yu comes there, Ki-jun sees him and starts thinking about Yoo-jin and Jin-ha. When Lee Si-yu comes and stands next to him, Ki-jun angrily starts to hit him, due to which a fight happens between them, which all the media people also see, because of which later both get scolded by the boss. When Lee Si-yu comes out of the boss's room, Jin-ha signals him from downstairs to come out, so Lee Si-yu starts to go after her. Ki-jun hides and follows them both. Then we see Jin-ha and Lee Si-yu in a restaurant. Jin-ha applies medicine on the injuries on his face. Then she says, "I didn't know you were so sensitive." So Lee Si-yu says, "He started the fight, not me. You want him to hit me and I not stop him?" So Jin-ha says, "That's not what I mean. We spent 10 years together, so it's impossible for us to cut off so quickly. But you don't need to worry. He is just my colleague now." Then she tells him everything that happened on the day of the accident, which makes Lee Si-yu relax. Then he kisses her. Jin-ha starts to smile. From outside, Ki-jun also sees them doing this. After which, when he comes home, Yoo-jin is waiting for him. Yoo-jin talks to him, but Ki-jun tells her, "I am very upset, so don't say anything right now." Yoo-jin says, "I had an affair with Lee Si-yu in the past, but now we have no relation." But Ki-jun says, "You are lying." Then he tells her, "Do you know who Lee Si-yu is dating?" So she says, "No." So Ki-jun says, "He and Jin-ha are dating." Hearing this, Yoo-jin is shocked. There a waiter brings a cake to Jin-ha. Seeing it, she looks towards Lee Si-yu because she did not order this cake. Lee Si-yu also did not order it. Just then the chef tells the waiter, "I told you to give the cake to the other couple. You brought it to them." Then the waiter says sorry to them and gives the cake to that couple. So in that couple, the boy puts a ring on the girl and proposes, after which she cuts the cake. Jin-ha is very happy seeing this scene. On the other side, Yoo-jin does not believe that Lee Si-yu is dating a girl like Jin-ha. So Ki-jun says, "I have seen them both hanging out and drinking together." So Yoo-jin says, "But colleagues can also do all this. Besides, Jin-ha is not his type of girl." Hearing all these things, Ki-jun gets irritated. He thinks, "I also don't believe that a mature girl like Jin-ha can date Lee Si-yu." While going back, Jin-ha talks to Lee Si-yu about marriage. So he says, "I find married life very suffocating. I have to act happy even when I am not. Everyone's thinking is different, but in my opinion, doing this is very wrong." The next day after the meeting, Ki-jun comes to Jin-ha and says, "Can I talk to you alone?" So Jin-ha starts to go with him. Lee Si-yu sees them both going. Outside, Ki-jun asks, "Jin-ha, are you dating Lee Si-yu?" Hearing this, Jin-ha starts acting ignorant, but Ki-jun tells her, "I have observed you both closely. You both also went to drink together." Jin-ha lies. "Me and Lee Si-yu are teammates. So can only couples go for a drink, not teammates?" So Ki-jun says, "No, but teammates don't kiss each other." Hearing this, Jin-ha is shocked. Then she says, "Whoever I date or kiss, what does it matter to you?" Ki-jun says, "But Lee Si-yu is not a good person. That's why I want you to stay away from him." But Jin-ha tells him, "Whatever he is like, I like him. So don't interfere in my matters again." Ki-jun says, "He is taking revenge on me by dating you and nothing else." Jin-ha does not listen to his words. Just then, Yoo-jin also comes there. Then seeing Ki-jun like this, she leaves in anger. In the next scene, Jin-ha and Lee Si-yu are talking on text about going on a date and smile looking at each other, so their office colleague Soo-jin notices this thing. In the next scene, Jin-ha and Lee Si-yu both discuss on text where we should go on a date. Jin-ha says it should not be a crowded place. So Lee Si-yu thinks of a place. He asks her, "Do you like nature?" She says, "Absolutely." After which he makes a plan for that place where he was going to go with Yoo-jin last time. The next day, Ki-jun comes outside Jin-ha's apartment to talk to her and is messaging her when he sees Jin-ha going in a car with Lee Si-yu. Then we see Ki-jun going after them. He is also getting calls from Yoo-jin, but still he follows them both. There, Jin-ha and Lee Si-yu have both come to Jeju Island where they both do camping together and spend a good time. On the other side, Ki-jun has parked his car in the wrong place, so a traffic officer starts to take his car. When Ki-jun sees this, he starts to go after them, calling out to them. When Lee Si-yu starts to barbecue there, he doesn't find chicken in his things. We see that chicken is being eaten by Dong-han at home. Hearing that there is no chicken, Jin-ha starts to make kimchi, so both take pictures, videos, and talk together. In the next scene, when Ki-jun comes home, Yoo-jin asks him, "Where were you?" So he says, "It's a long story." She says, "What do you mean? We had to go to your mom's birthday, did you forget?" Ki-jun is shocked. Yoo-jin says, "Now don't say that you saw Jin-ha and Lee Si-yu together." He says, "You don't even believe that they are in a relationship. I saw them spending time together on a date." Yoo-jin says, "Why is Jin-ha so important to you?" So Ki-jun says, because she is dating that bastard who is with her to take revenge on me. So Yoo-jin says, then you should expose them both in front of everyone. But Ki-jun says, no, I will not do that. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu is in a meeting with Ki-jun on a rain matter. So while analyzing data, it takes a lot of time for both of them. Jin-ha waits for Lee Si-yu outside for some time, and Soo-jin sees her doing this. Then when she is leaving the office with Dong-han, she gets worried seeing Dong-han's wife with them. In the next scene, Ki-jun comes home and asks Yoo-jin, why did you break up with Lee Si-yu? He seems like a good boy. So Yoo-jin says, because you were the first person in my life who proposed to me for marriage, that's why I broke up with Lee Si-yu. But now you have changed a lot. You don't care about our relationship. You just regret that you left Jin-ha and she is dating Lee Si-yu. In the next scene, Jin-ha is telling the media about the rain when Dong-han's wife sees her on TV and recognizes that this was the girl with Dong-han. On the other side, after the press conference when Jin-ha is about to leave from there, Yoo-jin tells her, are you dating Lee Si-yu? Ki-jun told me. Then she says, Lee Si-yu is a good person. Handsome too. So Jin-ha asks her, then did you break up because of his father? So Yoo-jin says, no, actually Lee Si-yu never wants to marry anyone. Hearing this, Jin-ha is a little shocked. In the next scene, when Lee Si-yu enters the lift to come to the apartment, Jin-ha's mom is also there. On the next floor, when the lift stops, Seok also comes inside the lift. Lee Si-yu asks Seok, is your apartment here in Sona? So he says, yes. Jin-ha's mother listens to their conversation. When Lee Si-yu starts to unlock Jin-ha's apartment door, Jin-ha's mother asks, what are you doing? My daughter lives here. So Lee Si-yu is shocked. Just then, Dong-han opens the door. Seeing whom Jin-ha's mother is shocked, what is he doing in my daughter's apartment? They both say, we are living with your daughter because of work. Nowadays, the weather situation is very dangerous, so we might have to discuss it at any time so that an alert can be announced to the people. Hearing this, Jin-ha's mom is a little shocked. Then Jin-ha's mom asks Lee Si-yu, who is the man you were talking to in the lift? So he says, he is our colleague. So mom asks, is he married? So he says, no, he is single. So mom starts thinking something. Just then, Jin-ha also comes to the apartment. So her mom asks, how can you keep two males in your apartment like this? That too without telling me? So Jin-ha says, Mom, I know them well. I have a lot of work to do, so they are helping me. Then she starts to take her mom from there. Mom, it's hot here. Let's go outside somewhere. On the other side, Ki-jun's mom calls him and tells him, why didn't you come to my birthday? Yoo-jin brought a gift for me. Did you both buy it? Hearing this, Ki-jun is surprised because Yoo-jin had not told him about it. Then his mom praises Yoo-jin a lot, which makes Ki-jun realize that he has been behaving rudely with Yoo-jin for a few days. So he goes home and says sorry to Yoo-jin. So Yoo-jin also forgives him. There at home, Lee Si-yu asks Dong-han, why was Jin-ha's mom asking about Seok? So Dong-han says, it's possible she is thinking about marrying Jin-ha to him. Hearing this, Lee Si-yu is shocked and says, Seok is a very boring person. He is not Jin-ha's type. Their hobbies and interests are different. But Dong-han says, in love, even different people can spend their lives together. Lee Si-yu gets sad. On the other side, Jin-ha's mom talks to her about marrying Seok. He is perfect for you. You should think about it. So Jin-ha does not answer them, just sends them to their house by taxi. Then when she comes to the apartment, seeing Lee Si-yu, she remembers Yoo-jin's words that he has no interest in marriage. There, Lee Si-yu thinks about Ki-jun's words that Jin-ha does not date anyone just like that until she knows that the next person will marry her. Then Jin-ha asks Lee Si-yu to have a drink together. While drinking, Jin-ha asks him, are you not interested in marriage? He says, yes, I don't think it is necessary to get married to prove your love. By doing so, I don't want to put a burden on that person. Jin-ha says, then what will be the end of our relationship? Do you have any idea? At night, in their respective rooms, both think about this same thing, because of which neither can sleep. In the next scene, when these three come to the lift to go to the office, seeing Seok in the lift, Lee Si-yu remembers Dong-han's words that love and marriage can happen with any person. Thinking this, he stands next to Jin-ha in the lift, pushing Seok behind him, which makes Seok feel weird about his actions. Jin-ha's mom buys things from the market with her sister to make kimchi. So Jin-ha's sister says, what will you do by making so much kimchi? So she says, I will give it to Jin-ha and her colleagues who live in the same building. Jin-ha's sister remembers that last time when she went to give kimchi to Jin-ha's apartment, she had met such a man. So she tells her mom, he is not Jin-ha's type of person, at which mom starts to get angry. In the next scene, after the meeting, Jin-ha tells Ki-jun, I need to talk to you. Hearing this, Ki-jun is a little surprised. Then Jin-ha brings coffee for Ki-jun. Then she asks him, can you tell me what married life is like? Ki-jun says, did Lee Si-yu propose to you that you are asking like this? But Jin-ha tells him, it's not like that, I am just asking casually. So he says, married life is not easy. I myself am under a lot of stress about how to make my married life good. Sometimes we both get irritated over each other's past, so it's not an easy thing to accept each other. In the next scene, Yoojin's senior is discussing work with her and tells her to bring information about the forecasting company. Ki-jun also notices her from afar. Then, when Yoojin is going to her cabin, Lee Si-yu comes to her and says, "Can you listen to me?" So she says, "Yes." Lee Si-yu says, "When I told you that I have no interest in marriage, how did you feel?" Yoojin says, "At first I was very hurt, but after that, I decided to break up with you because every girl wants to marry her boyfriend after dating. Then I met Ki-jun, and our marriage happened due to our understanding." In the next scene, Jin-ha's mom has brought kimchi for Jin-ha and Seok. She sends Jin-ha's sister to Seok's apartment to give the kimchi and comes to Jin-ha's apartment herself. Jin-ha gives them juice while drinking, which, mom thinks, where has Jin-ha's sister taken so long? There, Jin-ha's sister sees a lot of books at Seok's house. Then she also sees her own book among those books, so she asks him, "Have you read this?" So he says, "Yes, this is my favorite." Hearing this, Jin-ha's sister becomes happy. On the other side, Jin-ha's mom pressures her to get married, so Jin-ha angrily says, "I don't want to get married, why are you forcing me?" Lee Si-yu, standing outside, also hears their conversation. Then after her mom leaves, Lee Si-yu asks Jin-ha, "Why did you refuse your mom to get married?" So she says, "I agree with your point that we should not take this burden." Lee Si-yu, hearing this, gets lost in thought. The next day, Ki-jun sees that a reporter has published something against their company. So Ki-jun thinks that Yoojin gave the information to that reporter because he had seen her talking to her senior. So he goes and talks to her, at which Yoojin gets angry and says, "I did not do anything like that. If you don't trust me, why did you marry me?" and leaves from there angrily. In the next scene, the boss tells Jin-ha to send some employee to Jeju Island. So Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yu, "I want you to go to Jeju Island. We'll see there." In the next scene, Yoojin tells Ki-jun, "I think we should live separately for some time because you also need time to think about continuing this marriage, and I also need it. That's why I am leaving from here." There, Lee Si-yu, thinking about Jin-ha's words to go to Jeju Island, remembers that Ki-jun had said that if Jin-ha is dating, it means she wants to get married. In the present, Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yu, "Are you not agreeing to go to Jeju Island?" So he says, "It's not like that. I will definitely go." On the other side, Ki-jun stops Yoojin and says, "If you leave, I will think that everything is over between us." So Yoojin says, "If you want that, then assume so," after which she leaves from there. The next day in the meeting, Lee Si-yu texts Jin-ha, "This weekend is my last here." Reading this, she starts looking at Lee Si-yu, so the boss starts to stare at both of them. Then Lee Si-yu texts, "Can we go to a restaurant for soup on the weekend?" So Jin-ha, instead of replying in text, looks at him and says a little loudly, "What?" So everyone starts looking at her. Lee Si-yu is smiling at this after the meeting. Then after the meeting, the boss asks Jin-ha, "Who are you sending to Jeju Island?" Jin-ha does not say anything. So from behind, Lee Si-yu raises his hand and says, "I agree to go to Jeju Island." Later, Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yu, "You seem quite excited to go to Jeju Island." So he says, "Yes, I wanted to go there." So Jin-ha says, "But going for soup is not a good idea." Then the boss tells Lee Si-yu, "You can go to Jeju Island from next week." But Lee Si-yu says, "I want to go the very next day," at which Jin-ha is shocked. So he says, "You don't want to go for soup with me and I don't have any plan for the weekend, so it's better that I just go there." So Jin-ha says, "Are you joking or are you upset?" So he says, "Whatever you think." So Jin-ha says, "Let's go and talk to the boss." So he stops her and says, "You are confusing me now. You said that you and I need some time to think about our relationship. That's why you were sending me to Jeju. So now why are you acting sad?" So Jin-ha says, "You are misunderstanding me. I don't bring my feelings into work." So Lee Si-yu says, "Fine, then I will leave from here tomorrow itself." On the other side, Ki-jun submits his leave application in his office and books a ticket to go to Jeju Island because his family lives there. In the next scene, Dong-han and Seok tell all the staff members, "It's Lee Si-yu's last day here, so we should have dinner together." Lee Si-yu also agrees to this. Then later, Jin-ha, seeing Lee Si-yu upset, asks, "What happened to you?" So he says, "What difference does it make to you?" So Jin-ha says, "You are reacting like a child." Hearing this, Lee Si-yu gets irritated and says, "I am not a child. I am an adult, and I am your boyfriend. I am Lee Si-yu, not your ex-boyfriend Ki-jun. Don't compare me with him. I will never hurt you like him. You are not taking my words seriously at all. I don't want to get married. This does not mean that I don't love you. I love you very much. That's why you will have to think about our relationship again, and until I come from Jeju Island, you will have to make up your mind. If you want to stay with me, then think properly until I come." In the next scene, Jin-ha's mom invites Lee Si-yu for lunch. She talks to Seok about Jinha's marriage, so Lee Si-yu says there is a lot of difference between them. So mom says, marriage means exactly this, the meeting of two people with different thoughts and different temperaments, and then becoming one in the future, but nowadays kids consider marriage like an insurance. Lee Si-yu asks, don't you regret your marriage discussion? So she says, no, that time was good. I have both my daughters. Why would I regret it? There the other staff, after having dinner, Sujin calls Lee Si-yu to pick up Jinha. Then ahead, we see Jinha telling Lee Si-yu, I want to stay in this relationship, but you also think about it properly and decide. The next morning, Lee Si-yu is going to Jeju Island by plane. When Jinha wakes up, she sees that Donghan is also packing his things and going to his house from there. He tells her that Lee Si-yu has made soup for both of them and left. Then we see the next scene, Ki-jun tells Jinha that Yoo-jin is in the hospital with Lee Si-yu. So Jinha says, they met by chance. Because of you, I am not able to trust him. I just keep thinking that I will get hurt again. Then in the office, everyone is in a meeting. They notice a typhoon coming to Jeju Island. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu is in the plane looking at his and Jinha's photos and thinking, does a relationship become strong with time or does it become weak? He remembers her words, you go there and think what we will do next besides getting married. Then we see in a flashback, when they both were coming home by bus, Lee Si-yu, looking at her, thinks, I have always wanted to spend personal time with you, and then kisses Jinha. Then we see the next scene. When Jinha is crying after hearing about Lee Si-yu's accident, Ki-jun tells her, I didn't know you love Lee Si-yu so much. Just then, Lee Si-yu's father comes and starts shouting in the office that Lee Si-yu was injured while working in the office. He tells Jinha, do you even know what my son's condition is? So Jinha says, yes, I know everything. Let's go outside and talk. But Ki-jun tells Lee Si-yu's dad, you can't create a scene like this here. Do you even know how important our work is? So he says, my son is the most important thing to me. Then he tells Jinha, you are in a relationship with Lee Si-yu, right? Hearing this, the entire office staff starts looking at her. Then we see a scene from before. Lee Si-yu reaches Jeju Island and goes to the office there, and he finds out about the typhoon coming. Then in a live video meeting, seeing Jinha, Lee Si-yu thinks that Jinha had told him, I like you a lot, although there is a lot of difference in our thinking, but still I like you. Then when Lee Si-yu comes out for typhoon observation, he sees Yoo-jin there who is with her brother, who insists to Yoo-jin, I have to go with you, because Yoo-jin was going with Lee Si-yu to observe the typhoon. Upon his much insistence, Lee Si-yu agrees to take him along. Then, when Lee Si-yu is doing the typhoon observation with a gas balloon, it suddenly starts raining, so the man with Lee Si-yu starts packing all the things. Lee Si-yu is filling the gas balloon with air when suddenly there is an explosion, due to which Lee Si-yu is injured. Yoo-jin, seeing him like this, starts going towards him. In the present, Lee Si-yu's father tells the boss to compensate. So Jinha says, right now we don't know how much Lee Si-yu is injured, so we can't decide anything right now. Then the boss tells Jinha to go to Jeju Island. There Ki-jun also talks to his senior about leave, but he doesn't agree. This is typhoon time. No one can get leave. But Ki-jun says, since I have been working here, I have not requested leave even once. My wife has left me, so I want to go to appease her. Now hearing this, the senior gives him leave. Then we see Jinha with Ki-jun on a plane. In the hospital, Jinha hugs Lee Si-yu and cries a lot, so he tells Jinha, I am fine. You stop crying. Just then, his father comes and asks him, where did you get hurt? Show me. Only then we will get compensation. Hearing this, Lee Si-yu shouts and tells his dad, who brought you here? Go away from here. Then outside, Ki-jun sees Lee Si-yu's father telling the doctor, you show in the report that Lee Si-yu is very seriously injured. Then later, Yoo-jin tells Jinha that Lee Si-yu does not like his father at all. Just then, Lee Si-yu's father tells Jinha, you have to pay compensation. You have seen Lee Si-yu's condition. So Ki-jun tells him, I have also come from the same company, so you talk to me. Just then, Lee Si-yu also comes there and tells his father, you need money for what? For gambling or for a girl? After hearing this, Lee Si-yu's dad slaps him, so Lee Si-yu leaves from there. Jinha goes after him, so he gets angry at her for bringing his father. So Jinha says sorry to him. My intention was that your relationship with each other would become good. But he says, you said right that I should think about our relationship again. So I have decided to break up with you. Hearing this, Jinha leaves the hospital without saying anything. Then the chief, due to the typhoon, tells Jinha to join the Jeju Typhoon Center. So Jinha goes to the center and is analyzing the weather forecast when the in-charge there asks Jinha about Lee Si-yu's health condition. So she says he will stay in the hospital for treatment now. The in-charge, showing her a wound mark, says, I got this during fieldwork. Incidents like this have happened with all of us, but how can you realize this because you stay at the headquarters? Just then Lee Si-yu comes there, so the in-charge asks him, what are you doing here? You should be in the hospital. So Lee Si-yu says, I was feeling better, so I came back to work. Then Jin-ha talks to Lee Si-yu outside. You should go back to the hospital. He says, I am fine, so I don't want to go to the hospital. In the next scene, Ki-jun has come to Yoo-jin's house on Jeju Island, so Yoo-jin's mom tells him to eat and stay there, at which Yoo-jin's mood gets off. Later, Ki-jun gets on his knees and says, sorry to Yoo-jin. So Yoo-jin's brother sees them like this and starts to smile. So Yoo-jin tells Ki-jun, don't do this, I have forgiven you. Hearing this, Ki-jun becomes happy. In the next scene, the in-charge comes to Jin-ha and again starts telling her the problems of fieldwork, so Jin-ha gets irritated and says, I know fieldwork is difficult, but it's not easy to do a job sitting in the headquarters either. We have a lot of pressure there. Hearing this, the in-charge's mouth shuts. On the other side, Ki-jun is at Yoo-jin's house. So at night, Ki-jun talks about her dad. Your behavior with your dad is not good. So Yoo-jin says, he is not my dad. Why are you taking his side so much? So Ki-jun says, don't say such things. He is your dad. Hearing such things from you will hurt him. Again, they start to argue. So Yoo-jin's dad, hearing their fight outside, takes Ki-jun out and starts to hit him. I warned you before the marriage not to hurt my daughter. So Yoo-jin stops her dad. Papa, don't interfere in our matters. So her dad is happy just hearing this, that Jin had called him Papa for the first time. In the next scene, we see that someone had to go to the site for ground data analysis, in which there was a risk. So Jin-ha says, I will go to the site. Then she and Lee Si-yu go on an analysis ship in the sea for the typhoon. Outside, Dong-han and K-jun do research through a balloon, after which Jin-ha announces a typhoon alert. Now on the ship, Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yu, I want to take more time to think about our relationship, that's why I will not break up with you. On the other side, we see Seok with Jin-ha's sister, where Jin-ha's sis proposes to Seok for a date, which he happily accepts and then they both kiss. In the next scene, Jin-ha's mom finds a picture while searching for something, seeing which she is shocked. On the ship, Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yu to break up. Then while coming back to Seoul at the airport, Lee Si-yu tells Jin-ha, I will take my things from your house tomorrow. Then in the office, Dong-han tells Lee Si-yu, I heard you are dating director Jin-ha. He tells him to speak softly so that no one hears. So Dong-han says, the whole office knows this. Hearing this, Lee Si-yu is shocked. Many people there are jealous of Lee Si-yu for dating the director, and some people congratulate him on that. Then, at night, Jin-ha calls Lee Si-yu and tells him to take his things. Just then, Lee Si-yu comes to her apartment and says that everyone in the office has found out about our relation. So Jin-ha shockingly says, what? Just then, her mom, coming from the other room, says, I know you two are in a relation. She shows them a picture in which Jin-ha and Lee Si-yu are kissing, seeing which both get embarrassed and turn their faces to the other side. Then, Lee Si-yu leaves from there, and Jin-ha's mom is asking her about Lee Si-yu, at which Jin-ha gets irritated and says, we have broken up, so you don't need to know all this. On the other side, Ki-jun makes food for Yoo-jin, but Yoo-jin says, I am not hungry, I feel like vomiting. So Ki-jun says, this is my first marriage, I am trying my best, but still, maybe I am not able to be a good husband for you. So give me some time. Then he tells her to drink hot milk. It is not good to stay on an empty stomach like this. There, Jin-ha's sister has come to Seok's apartment. In the lift, she encounters Jin-ha. So Jin-ha thinks her mom might have sent her to convince me for marriage. So her sister also makes up a story. I came to meet you. Mom sent me here. The next day, Lee Si-yu, while working in the office, hears some employees talking, who were talking about his and Jin-ha's dating. Lee Si-yu does not like being discussed like this. Then an office employee tells Lee Si-yu Jin-ha had dated her colleague before too, but he hurt her. So please never hurt Jin-ha. In the next scene, hearing the office members talk about Jin-ha and Lee Si-yu, Ki-jun talks to Lee Si-yu. I am trying to move on after my breakup with Jin-ha. After our breakup, Jin-ha was very hurt. So Lee Si-yu says, but she broke up with you herself because of you cheating. So he says, people don't see this thing. People always blame the female for the breakup, so you never break up with Jin-ha. Then later, Lee Si-yu tells Jin-ha, now we will have to keep our breakup a secret because upon finding out about it, everyone will gossip about us. Jin-ha says, my decision to date my colleague again was wrong itself, so I will have to bear its after effects. So Lee Si-yu says, this breakup is very painful for me too. Until everyone's gossip stops, we will have to act like we are in a relationship. Then Jin-ha, Ki-jun, and Lee Si-yu get a call from Yoo-jin. Yoo-jin tells Lee Si-yu, I am pregnant, but when I told Ki-jun about it, his response was weird. He should have been happy. There, Ki-jun tells Jin-ha, I was not mentally ready for Yoojin's pregnancy yet. Financially, too, I am not capable of taking on the responsibility of a child right now. I have to give you your money, too. On the other side, Lee Si-yu tells Yoojin, you have to compromise in a relationship. My relation with my dad was not good because when I came into this world, my mom died, because of which dad always blamed me for that. There, Jin-ha asks Ki-jun, are you happy about the baby's arrival? Tell me the truth. So he says, yes, there is happiness. Jin-ha says, then take a bouquet and go to Yoojin and celebrate this happiness. In the next scene, Ki-jun decorates the house and upon Yoojin's arrival, he hugs her and says congratulations. So Yoojin is not happy. She says, I think this is not the right time to have a baby, I should get an abortion. In the next scene, Jin-ha gets a call from the hospital. Lee Si-yu's dad is hospitalized. She calls Lee Si-yu, but he does not attend her call. Then we see Lee Si-yu with Jin-ha's mom. Jin-ha's mom asks Lee Si-yu about his education, so he says, after college, I joined the army. Then from there, I passed the forecast exam and joined this company. When I was young, my mom died. My dad had a job somewhere, but he had an accident, after which he stopped working. There, the doctor tells Jin-ha that Lee Si-yu's dad will need surgery. They tell her to sign the documents. After signing, she looks back and Lee Si-yu's dad is standing there. Jin-ha tells him to get treatment, but he says, don't tell Lee Si-yu about this. There, when Jin-ha tells her mom about her and Lee Si-yu's breakup, she says, you did a good thing by breaking up. Not every relationship ends in marriage. Jin-ha sees that Lee Si-yu has forgotten his phone at Jin-ha's house, from which she becomes sure that Lee Si-yu had come to meet her mom. In the next scene, Kai-jun tells Yoojin, give me some time to think about the baby matter. So Yoojin says, we don't have much time. We can't afford the baby's expenses right now. I will have to hire a caretaker for the baby too because I can't take a break in my career. In the next scene, Jin-ha gives Lee Si-yu his phone in front of everyone in the office saying, you forgot this at mom's house. Hearing this, everyone becomes sure that now Lee Si-yu has also met Jin-ha's mom. So these people will get married soon too. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu goes to Jin-ha and says, I love you very much, so I can't break up. Please give me one chance. So Jin-ha leaves from there without saying anything. In the next scene, Ki-jun, after thinking a lot, tells Yoojin, if we have a baby, I will welcome it. But if you don't want that, I will not force you for it. I will support you in your decision. In the next scene, Jin-ha's mom has brought food for Jin-ha and come to her apartment. Jin-ha had changed the door password, so she calls her, which she does not attend. So mom thinks, now I can't take the food back. So she decides to give it to Seok and goes towards his apartment. There, Seok is in the apartment with Jin-ha's sister. She is leaving from there, so Seok starts to kiss her by the door. Then, Jin-ha's mom is outside Seok's apartment. They are so involved in kissing that suddenly, with the door opening, both fall down. So Jin-ha's mom is shocked to see Seok with her daughter like this. There, Lee Si-yu's dad has cancer. Knowing this, Lee Si-yu is crying a lot. Just then, the police come and say that Lee Si-yu's dad has to be arrested for committing fraud in the insurance company. Lee Si-yu gets worried. Then Jin-ha tells the officer about Lee Si-yu's dad's condition and tells him to talk to the doctor. Then later, when Lee Si-yu is sitting sad, Jin-ha comes to him and says, the police have left because of your dad's health. The doctor has refused to discharge him. Then seeing him crying, Jin-ha starts to console him, so he says, you don't need to care for me. So Jin-ha leaves from there. On the other side, Jin-ha's mom is asking Seok questions. You have a job and your own house, so you should get married. So Jin-ha's sister quiets her mom. Marriage is not the end of every date. So Seok asks her, why don't you want to get married? So she says, I don't want to take any kind of burden. I want to enjoy my life freely. In the next scene, Ki-jun tells Yoojin, when I first saw you, I fell in love with you. Yesterday, after your ultrasound, hearing the baby for the first time, I felt as if my heart was replying to it. I am your dad. Hearing all this, Yoojin gets emotional and starts crying. Then she says thanks to him and hugs him. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu applies for a loan in the office. So Ki-jun hears a girl talking that he is going to marry Jin-ha. So the other girl says, why marriage so soon? Is director Jin-ha pregnant? Then this rumor spreads throughout the office that Jin-ha is pregnant. In the next scene, the nurse goes to check on Lee Si-yu's dad, and he is missing from the hospital, so she calls Lee Si-yu, at which Lee Si-yu says, I don't know anything about him. He calls his dad, and his phone is also off. In the next scene, Kai-jun talks to Jin-ha. Lee Si-yu is taking a loan. Are you two getting married? So Jin-ha says, what is the connection of this with our marriage? Then later, Soo-jin asks Jin-ha, are you pregnant? So she says, no, the loan that Lee Si-yu is taking has no link with our marriage. Besides, we have broken up. For a long time, we were acting like we were in a relation in the office, but I can't do this anymore. Ki-jun and Lee Si-yu, standing behind, also hear all this. So Jin-ha tells Lee Si-yu, "You have heard, right? Now we should stop this acting." In the next scene, Ki-jun makes Jin-ha listen to his baby's voice and says, "You are talking about breaking up, but Lee Si-yu still likes you and you also want him. So as a friend, I will advise you not to give up on him." On the other side, Lee Si-yu is searching for his dad everywhere, but he doesn't find his dad anywhere. He is sitting disappointed somewhere when he gets a call from his dad. He tells him, "You should not let Jin-ha go from your life. She is very good. My and your relation has not been good. That's why I don't want to put a burden on you." Lee Si-yu says, "I will do everything for you. You just come to me." But dad says, "No, don't even try to find me." In the next scene, we see Ji-jun taking very good care of Yoo-jin. He tells her to eat healthy fruits and also takes her shopping. In the next scene, Jin-ha's mom tells Jin-ha that you still love Lee Si-yu. There, Lee Si-yu also loves you, but he is afraid of hurting you. So instead of thinking about the future, live in the present, then you will be happy. Then Jin-ha remembers the moments spent with Lee Si-yu. There, Lee Si-yu is also thinking of her, after which both meet in a restaurant. It is snowing. Lee Si-yu says, "The first time we met at the temple, it was March 14th. Jin-ha says, "I was attracted to your healthy and caring attitude, but by dating you, I have realized your pain which you wanted to hide from others." Then both hug each other while confessing their love. In the next scene, Lee Si-yu brings his father to his house to take care of him. He is quite depressed about his dad's health, so Jin-ha motivates him. Then in the last scene, Lee Si-yu gives a necklace to Jin-ha and proposes to her, which Jin-ha accepts. So both are happy, and with this, the drama ends.